Hey there, welcome back. I'm Devan, and today I wanted to give you an update on how my husband Justin and I are doing on our mental health journey. This is the fourth one of these videos that I have recorded and shared on my channel since Justin was diagnosed with Bipolar 1 in March after having his first ever manic episode and being hospitalized for a couple of weeks. And so if you're interested in hearing more about our overall story and the background of this, I'll link to those videos. In the first video, Justin was still in the hospital at that time. So in that video, I'm mostly talking about his manic episode and what that was like and that initial experience of trying to figure out what was going on with him. And then in the second video, he had been home for a few weeks, home from the hospital, and I talked a lot about some of the struggles and challenges we were going through interpersonally as he was still coming down from the manic side of the bipolar arc of this first episode that he experienced. And then in my most recent update, I was sharing about Justin's depression and how he had kind of dipped down into a depression after he came down from the mania, which is very expected in bipolar. And I shared about how we were dealing with the depression side of things and how he and I were connecting and the self-care strategies that we were using to both take care of ourselves. So I've shared a lot about Justin's journey and my own feelings and my own experiences in dealing with all of this. And as I've said before, I decided to talk about this on my channel because, first of all, I just want to be transparent with all of you and share with you that, I'm a real person with real challenges and real things going on in my life, like all of us are. And initially, I was away from my channel for a little while when we were in the first immediate stage of things, and I wanted to be honest with you all about that. And I also really feel like there's an important place for talking about mental health in the ASMR community. And so I just want to open up a space for that and just share with you really frankly and honestly about where I am and what I'm going through on this journey. And I always say that Justin is very open and very supportive of me sharing about this. So I'm really grateful to him because it's very helpful for me to share. And I thank you again for all of your support and your kindness whenever I share about this part of my life. You are all always so compassionate and thoughtful and sharing good suggestions and good resources with me. And it just means a lot to me that this is a safe space where I can really be honest and talk to you about what's going on in my life, and that can be a part of this community as well as the ASMR and the creativity and the fun relaxation videos and all of that. So with that little introduction having been said, I did just want to tell you where we are right now. It's been probably 6 weeks since I recorded that last video, and Justin was still pretty deep in depression the last time I gave you an update, and I am pleased to let you know that his condition and his mood has improved and lifted a lot since that time. He has definitely come up out of the depression. He was originally up in the mania and then dipped down into the depression and then has now come back up to a more even place, which we hope he will be able to maintain. And, it was really still a hard few more weeks there when he was in the deepest part of the depression. I had shared that, he wasn't really able to engage with music or the things that he typically loves in his life, and he was really struggling with his cognition and his focus, and we weren't sure if he was going to be able to go back to work when his paid medical leave was up, which is happening a few weeks from now. But he is doing a lot better. It's been a very gradual process. There was one day, probably at the end of June, where he was sitting on the couch one day. I was doing something in the kitchen, and he just got up and went over to the stereo and put music on. And that was the first time that he had done that in weeks and weeks and weeks, and it made me cry because I was just so relieved that he had any kind of an urge to do something like that. So that was a really nice moment, and it's not like that flipped a switch and then he was suddenly fine, but that was a good indicator that things were starting to move a little bit, and he had been working and continues to be working with his doctor and his psychiatrist to balance out his meds and figure out the best balance of things for his medication so that it is supportive of him. And for a while he was having some physical side effects from his medication, which were really hard for him, and that has gotten a lot better. So he's in a good place with that, and his cognition has improved again, slowly but surely. He's able to focus on things more. Just these last couple of weeks, it's like his curiosity has come back. He's been enjoying learning about things again. He's been looking up new music, which he hadn't done in such a long time, and he always used to love to do. And he's been reading a lot, which for such a long time he couldn't even read at all. He couldn't focus on that, and the world just seemed kind of like a scary, intimidating place to him, I think. And now the world is seeming more like an interesting place again, and so that's a huge blessing. And because his cognition has improved so much, he is planning to go back to work in a couple of weeks, and he wants to do that. He wants to try and see how it goes, and so that is a huge blessing for us. And so I'm just really, really grateful. And depression is very different for every individual, and the timeline is very unique to each person, and sometimes it takes a really long time. So I can only speak to his experience and our experience, but it has now been just about 4 months since he was in the hospital at the peak of his manic episode. So for him, it's taken about 4 months to go through this whole initial cycle. And I know for some people with bipolar, that cycle is much quicker, and for some people it's much, much longer. So it's something that we didn't really have any context to navigate, since this is his first experience with this. He didn't have a history of bipolar before, and he was just diagnosed, as I said, in March. And so now we have a lot more information about what the mania looks like for him and what the depression looks like for him. And he has a good team, like I said, of professionals that he's working with. And so we're really hopeful that we can keep things in a balanced place for him and, be mindful about things that, might be changing, or his behavior or the way he feels, and, be able to be proactive about things so that hopefully he will never have to experience another extreme manic episode like he did. And there's no way of knowing. So that may be an isolated incident for him, or that may be something that repeats itself in his life. So as always with this, as we've said from the very beginning, we are just taking things a day at a time and being very thankful for where we are. And I talked a lot in my last video about the really getting back to basics of self-care that we were doing yoga every day and focusing on nourishing food and movement and self-compassion and self-love, and that's still really what we're focusing on. So that's kind of what's been going on with Justin. I will say for me, there have been a lot of challenges through this. There are a lot of unique challenges to being the spouse or the partner of someone who is experiencing a mental health issue. That's a very unique place to be, and I'm really grateful for all the support that I've gotten from different people to help me as I navigate it. And I will say that similarly to when Justin was improving from the manic side of things and got back to a little bit more of a place of equilibrium before he dipped back down into the depression, it was interesting because I've been having recently a similar experience as to what I was experiencing then when he was coming down from the mania, is that as Justin was getting better, as you might say, I mean, this is all comparative, but as he was getting to a place of more balance, I felt like some of my emotions and my emotional issues were getting worse and more challenging, because whenever we got to a point where he was doing a little better and I didn't have to be so focused in the moment on the immediate and trying to care for him and figure out what was happening, as soon as I had a little relief from that, then all of my emotions and things that I had been feeling that I had kind of had to hold down a little bit at the time just so that I could function would come rushing back. So I have had some experiences over the last few weeks where I've had memories and thoughts of when Justin was first in the hospital and first in his manic episode, and he didn't know me and I didn't know what was going on, and it was a very scary time. I've had kind of some flashbacks of that. I don't know, PTSD might be too strong of a term, but I've definitely been having moments of that trauma coming back to me and being emotionally overwhelming for me. And all through this time, I have struggled on and off with nightmares, and lately I've been having nightmares again and really intense dreams that I wake up from, and sometimes I'm really exhausted or upset when I wake up, and so my sleep patterns still have been a bit irregular, and my energy levels. So it has continued to be a challenging time for me. I have a lot of ups and downs, and for a while I was attending a good many support groups for family and friends of people diagnosed with bipolar, and that was really helpful to me for a while, to have that peer group and to have that context and support. But then I had to kind of pull back from attending those groups because I found that listening to other people's stories and hearing about some of the intense experiences that other people were having with their partners when they were in mania or in depression were becoming really upsetting to me. And I am a highly sensitive person. I do have to be careful about what I take in, because I think about things and they affect me really deeply. And that is one of the, kind of double-edged things about support groups, that it's really great to be able to share your story and to be able to support other people. But then there also is that balance of how much can an individual take in from others, and, how sustainable is that? And so I kind of had to take a break from attending those groups, and I hope that I can go back to that, because I really did like supporting others and being part of that community, but I just had to be realistic about my own emotional bandwidth and how much I could handle, and I had to focus on my own feelings and emotions. And it's been challenging for me because I know that I need community and I need to be spending time with people and being part of my own social networks and having that support. But with being so sporadic in my energy and my sleep, it's been hard for me to make plans with people. Sometimes I'll make plans to do something with someone, and then the day comes and I just don't have the energy or can't do it. So I've just really, really had to have a lot of patience and a lot of compassion with myself, through this time. And a positive thing is that Justin and I continue to be really, really connected. It was really hard when he was in mania because we had a hard time connecting interpersonally at that time. But lately, he and I are more connected than we've ever been. He is so supportive of me, and I really do feel that our relationship is stronger than it's ever been in our 20 plus years of marriage. So that is a really positive thing. And so I'm just being really gradual with things. And in my last video, I had talked about that I wanted to be job searching and seeing if I could, perhaps find a job that could be helping to support us more right now, or to get my wellness coaching business going, because I had just graduated from my wellness coaching program right when Justin had his episode. And so I had been ready to launch my business, and then that didn't really get to happen. I had to put that on hold, and I found I was starting to put a lot of pressure on myself about wanting to get those things going and, be bringing in more income for our family. And I've just really had to take a step back with that, and I've had to do a lot of self-work with myself about not basing my worth on what I'm earning or my productivity, and really valuing myself for who I am and for the many things I bring to our relationship and to our life together, and that some of those things can't be quantified in money or in things accomplished or checked off a to-do list. And so I've just been doing a lot of work on my self-worth and my self-love. And so that's where I kind of am right now. I think one of the challenges for me right now is really getting back in touch with myself and my own identity, because over these last few months, I have really taken on the role of caregiver and crisis coordinator and, taking the lead on a lot of things in our household and helping to take care of Justin while he has needed it. And so for me now that Justin is getting a lot better, which I'm so grateful for, and he's coming back into his own, which is such a blessing, it's a little bit hard for me to know, okay, who am I now? What is my role? If I'm not the caregiver, then who am I? And I think a lot of people struggle with this, with kind of caregiver fatigue or caregiver burnout. And it's kind of like, okay, how do I get back in touch with myself and what I need? And how do I start building up new habits and new routines along with Justin for this next new phase of our life? So that's what I'm working on now. I was talking to my therapist about it, and he was kind of saying, okay, you've kind of been in the emergency room for these last few months. That kind of is how it feels. And now we're not so much in the emergency room anymore. So how do I kind of start to build a new place of sustainability for myself as we move forward in our life? So I just want to share this. Like everything with this journey and this process, I just want to be honest about the challenges of it. So if there's anyone out there who has kind of been through this crisis phase, and then you might be thinking, well, things are so much better now. Why am I still feeling kind of terrible? And I think for me, it's because I am trying to figure out what this next phase will look like. And there's a lot to process, and there's a lot for me to absorb and to take in, and it's challenging to kind of see where everything shakes down and come back to who I want to be. So I hope that makes sense. And I guess I wanted to kind of wrap this up by sharing some of the things that have been really helpful for me as I'm trying to navigate this phase of things. And one of those has been our continued yoga and meditation practice. I honestly don't know where I would be right now if we hadn't been doing yoga and meditating every day. My thanks to the YouTube channel Yoga with Juliana, because Justin and I have been doing her videos morning and evening every day pretty much for months, and they have helped me so much in my body and my mind. And we've been meditating daily, and lately we've been doing meditations on YouTube, guided meditations with Tara Brock, who is a wonderful meditation teacher. I will link to her in the description, and her meditations are really focused on being in your body, in the moment, and having a lot of self-compassion for yourself, and taking a lot of care for yourself, and being in your heart space. And that's the kind of care that I really need right now. So that has been really helpful to me. And another thing that I have started doing is I have started writing about this experience. I have a blog that I had started, I don't know, probably about a year ago when I was in my wellness coaching training, where I was starting to share some essays and blog posts about wellness topics, and a little bit about my journey from leaving my high-stress job and trying to have a more balanced life. And I hadn't really published anything there since last December. And so just over the last few weeks, I've picked that back up again and have shared a few essays about my experience with Justin's episode and my feelings about it and some of the things that I have gone through. And I want to continue to do that because I am a writer at heart. I love to write, and the written word is a very important expression for me, and it really has lifted a weight from my shoulders and made me feel a lot better every time I share one of those essays. And it's just another way for me to put my voice out in the world about these mental health topics and about my own ups and downs. And I'm just really proud of myself for doing that. So I will link to my blog in the description. It's called A Little Nervy. And if any of you all are interested in reading a little bit more about my experiences and seeing what I'm like as a writer, I would love for you to check that out. So thank you in advance for your support of that and just allowing me to share with you my creativity in different ways, because that is such an important outlet for me. And that is the other thing I will say, is that continuing to make ASMR videos for all of you has just been so helpful and so grounding to me over these last months. It's actually really surprising to me that I have kept my channel going all this time. I've said to myself many times, like, maybe I should take a break, maybe it would be good to take a few weeks off from recording, because I know you all would understand, but I always end up having that urge to record, and somehow, even when I don't have energy for other things, somehow I always can muster up a little bit of energy, at least from time to time, to record, so that I've been able to post things pretty steadily. And I think that is just because this is such a wonderful community and a wonderful creative outlet for me, and a place for me to really be myself and to share myself with all of you. And when I get in here and start recording, I really do get in the zone, and I don't think about the things I'm worried about, and I'm not worried about my self-worth and what I'm doing and what I'm earning and how productive I'm being. I'm just in the moment, here with you, sharing my heart with you. And so thank you. Thank you to all of you for allowing me this space. If it was not for you, this would not exist. This connection is such an amazing thing, this ASMR YouTube space where I can support and encourage you, and you are also generous in supporting and encouraging me. So I'm just really grateful for that. So I will continue from time to time to do these mental health updates and share with you how we're doing. And I think we're pretty close to Justin being ready to get on the camera with me. We've been talking about him doing a, my husband tries ASMR for the first time kind of video, like the ones I have done with my mom, because that would be really fun, and it would be neat for you all to get to meet him. And so, keep a lookout for that. I think that will be coming soon at some point. And I would love to hear from all of you. What would you like to see on this channel in the future? I love hearing your ideas for videos. I love hearing, what resonates with you, what's helpful to you, what's relaxing for you, because I really do love making videos for you, and I really want to continue doing that and continue building and cultivating this channel and just seeing where that might go, because it really does bring me a lot of joy and a lot of satisfaction. So I will be continuing with my self-love practice and my prayer practice, my meditation practice, my movement practice, practicing, because that's what life is one big practice. And I'm just really grateful to you all for being here with me as I move along in this practice of life. So thank you again for your support. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you again soon.